Well, welcome everybody to another one of the Innovators Series interviews. And today we are extremely fortunate to have with us none other than Sean Penix, who's the VP of Sales, Tours and Events at AT&T Stadium and Dallas Cowboys in beautiful Dallas, Texas. So, Sean, wonderful to have you here. We have a few questions I just want to throw at you just to find out a bit about, what you guys are doing and whatnot.
Sure.
But first of all, how about a little bit of an intro? What's your background and how did you get to where you've got?
Oh man, a little bit of luck, right? I think a lot of, but with that luck was a lot of passion. I think I've been in sports, whether it's been on a personal side. I played sports in college, and it was kind of in a spot where I wanted to be. If I couldn't play it professionally, I wanted to be around it, and so. Kind of worked my way through the ranks when I graduated from college in 2008. Had no idea what I wanted to do, if I'm being really honest with you, Steve. So I just was like, and to the point where I think my parents were like, "What are you going to do?" This has ran its course on the sports side. I really didn't have an answer, and so I went through a few different odd jobs here and there. But sales was definitely something that I had a passion for. I had a degree in marketing, and so. Couple years in different roles, fell into an opportunity where I got to work in the NBA for a little bit of time. Networked, met a few people. I'm a football guy through and through, and somebody that worked with the Dallas Cowboys. Just stay connected with them. And again, that passion, just wanted to give me an opportunity. I'll kind of show my worth a little bit, and got an opportunity back in 2011 to work with the Dallas Cowboys and help with, at that time, the building was still fairly new at AT&T Stadium, and help with sales and ticket sales and premium inventory. Moved in a various different amount of roles with AT&T. Moved into a leadership opportunity with Legends, which is a sister company, if you will, of the Cowboys. It's partly owned by the Cowboys and New York Yankees back in 2017. And kind of fell into what a little bit of variation of what I'm doing today. And I oversaw kind of our tourism business, which a lot of venues now are looking at ancillary revenue opportunities to how to maximize their business when fans aren't in the building. And so that was really a big focus of mine. And then I just continued to get escalated into what else can we do, and how do we open up and sell our spaces and really utilize our building as an attraction for different various reasons. And then it became more of a regional thing, which is where I'm at now. Spent a little bit of time in the collegiate bubble, opened up venues in the college landscape for Legends, but then came back to AT&T in a bigger capacity to help us think through not only at this venue but multiple ones across the central region here in the U.S.
Wow, yeah, that's great. Such a great journey, and you say a bit of luck, but I'm sure you made a lot of that luck yourself by your passion that you talked about obviously shone through. So congratulations. And you mentioned Legends too. That's very timely, obviously, with the announcement now that the Legends acquisition of ASM Global has just gone through. So that's a
Yes, sir.
pretty
Yeah.
exciting thing happening too, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah. I mean, just continued evolution of our business, ASM Global, amazing company that we're very fortunate to now join with and continue just to elevate our brand. And so excited for what's to come as that continues to unfold and expand and get bigger.
No, I bet I think the industry is all really keen to see how that's going to play out. So exciting times. Just to focus a little bit for a second on Momentus. You guys have been using our software there at the stadium for quite a while now. How does the venue use it, and what departments work in it?
Yeah, I mean, all the way candidly, the top down. I say that from whether it's calendar management, from if you are on the corporate partnership side and you are trying to really manage when can we activate and utilize the stadium. Obviously, we use it at AT&T, but also at our practice facility at the Star in Frisco. and it is used in a lot of different ways for that aspect from a sales perspective. My team, more specifically, we manage it day-to-day operations, right? Tomorrow we have a college football game here at AT&T. Today we're running tours and have private events happening in and around different parts of our building. But tomorrow we have to be ready and prepared to also have 65,000 fans in here for a football game, but then reset again and get ready to do it all over for another week of tourism and things like that. And so, whether it is housekeeping, back of house, our tour operations team, our stadium operations, venue management team, even to the point where our events team that is looking at, a concert, if Taylor Swift wants to be in this building, they're managing and making sure, booking years and years in advance, how are we prepared for those moments. And it is definitely one of those consistent conversations that we have. We meet, I almost feel like every hour on the hour sometimes, but we meet very, very, very much with all different parts of our business lines to ensure there's connectivity, ensure we're all looking at the right things, and then I think Momentus is always setting us up for success in that regard.
That's amazing. Thanks so much for sharing that. It's warms my heart to hear that you're using the system as much as you possibly can. So that's great. You mentioned earlier though, when you were giving us your intro, some of the things you do there. You talked about some of the private events and so on. Are you finding as a business that there's now more emphasis on private events than there used to be? And if so, why is that?
Yeah, I think short answer is yes, 100%. I think the why behind that is a lot of companies, organizations are seeing their venues, right, that they've invested time, money, effort into, really to be a true asset and not just on one particular day of the year, right? Hey, this one event, this is what it was built for. It's really built, and I think the Cowboys organization has done a good job of recognizing this early on. Is this is for the everyday person, not just even just the Cowboys fan. There is connectivity in regards of from a community perspective. How do we leverage this every single day? And the hope is, right, for as if you're a Cowboys fan or not, maybe there's opportunities to do that, but there's also opportunities where, as a business owner, how do we create these unique things that get somebody outside of a norm of being at a hotel or a certain venue. This may be that one opportunity that they get. And, the private event business definitely has taken a whole new resurgence into the market where people are just looking for unique experiences. We've just seen a lot more of that, especially coming out of COVID. People really want kind of that once in a lifetime opportunity. And it candidly helps with engagement, right? Hey, I'm going to have this conference that's been at the same spot every single year. Attendance kind of starts to go down, but now all of a sudden, hey, it's at AT&T Stadium this year, right? Now we become a platform that helps them boost, some driving that business a little bit forward, and we recognize that, in a lot of different venues.
Yeah, look, I totally agree with you. I think it's amazing now that the event landscape's changed, where people are looking for a different experience, and what better experience if I'm having an event, whether it's a 1 day conference or maybe 2 or 3 day, to be able to come to a stadium as opposed to a vanilla conference room in a hotel. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it's amazing, and I'm glad that that's really taking off. When we talk about that, is there something special that you guys do to market your unique spaces?
Sure. I think, there's only one star, right? That's kind of how we always put it. There's only one AT&T Stadium. And I think what we do as far as marketing wise, obviously there's a lot of word of mouth. There's a lot of things that happen, whether it's through our fan base or it's truly in market of how we advertise. But I also feel like, being very centrally located, there's a lot of, eyeballs on, like, how do I do that one unique thing? We've continued to kind of build the brand. The brand awareness has been key. But I also feel like, from an event planning perspective, this is kind of the tie with Legends, is, my team, like specifically when it comes to working with our group, we try to make it as turnkey as possible from start to finish. One person you're working with, planning, execution, food and beverage, the whole works. You're working with the same group, same team, and even to the point of from the connectivity of like, well, where do I stay in a hotel, and how do I get bussed over, like letting us be that one-stop shop for you. And Momentus has allowed us to kind of build all that into one kind of platform to make it honestly digestible as a consumer, right? Versus great, now I have the venue. What's next? Okay, and I got to talk to this group. What's next? I think we've been marketed as more of a very just everything is ready to go for us when we go here, and that I think allows you to be a little bit competitive, even more so in our market that there's a lot of great venues in DFW. I think when you look at AT&T Stadium and the Star, the connectivity of how we can make it easy for a client to book here, I think it puts us in a whole nother perspective, and then it makes it a little easier to get that repeat business that everybody's kind of seeking all the time.
That's so cool to hear, and yeah, like you're basically the event concierge for your clients,
Correct.
which is amazing. Um, how does we'll stay on that topic of private events and that, but how does corporate sponsorships play a role in making your private event sector successful?
Oh, it's massive. I think AT&T Stadium more specifically, right? You have the Cowboys in particular have the double, if not triple, the amount of sponsors than any other NFL team, any other brand. And what that means, there's a lot of expectations from those sponsors that they want to be able to activate in a certain way. And my team does an amazing job of being able to take that to another level, right? Take a sponsor like an AT&T and say, hey, I know normally you may have your end of the year gala at this location, but let's continue to leverage the brand. You're obviously a partner here, but let's continue to elevate that in a lot of different ways. And so we're constantly trying to stay connected with those corporate partners that are in our building. The signs that you see, you know, if they want to have their launch party or they're announcing some big thing, I think that's also unique to our venue. Not a lot of NFL teams let you, really utilize all parts of the building. But because we have such a great, grounds crew, housekeeping, stadium operations that understands the importance of how to make sure that this building that now is 15 years old still looks like it's brand new. I think there's a unique art to that. And so when, certain, again, going back to that factor of, hey, like we want to leverage this platform because it's going to help our business, right? If it's Dr. Pepper wants to do a product launch, but do it on the field at AT&T Stadium. Sounds a little different than, hey, let's do it in our conference room at our building, right? So it's one of those things that we really try to make sure that we are one making sure people sponsors are aware that that's how you can use the facility, but two, obviously making sure that it is a turnkey experience. They're valued to the highest regard here in this building and at the Star, and so we want to make sure that they're treated as such.
That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, you have one of the most amazing brands in the sporting world. So, yeah, and having all the sponsorship, like you say, that goes with that is pretty cool to hear how you're doing those things. And like, I just want to finish with a final question on bringing it back to technology, not necessarily Momentous, but just technology in general. There's obviously a ton of change going on in this world at the moment with
Mhm.
AI and everything else. But how do you see technology in general, playing a role now in the way that you do business, and maybe even in the future? What are your thoughts in that area?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I think, look, change is inevitable. And I think that sports in general, sports and entertainment, you really have to have a high tolerance for ambiguity, like, and understand things are going to be changing constantly. A big part of our job, and we're always kind of tasked to do, is making sure that one, we're prepared for that change. We're staying on brand, if we will, leveraging. I think that's also the benefit of having certain sponsors, right, that are in this building. They're also keeping us up to date of like what's going on. Like, hey, like let's make sure that this is a new piece of tech that we need to make sure we have involved in the building. And then we have to really try to sift that out and say, hey, like, how can this help us, right? What can we use in these elements? If we're seeing that, especially from an event side, hey, we're seeing a lot of partners that come in. They need this type of AV setup. They need this type of technology to help them with their event programming and their presentation. Should we invest more into that? From a billing cycle, like more people get invoiced a different way. How do we be more predictable in that, utilizing AI capabilities to say, hey, like, this is a repeat customer that comes here every single year. They do the same thing. They like what they like. How do we get smarter about that versus, and how do we save, man hours that are spent to make sure this is detailed out the right way? So again, just trying to leverage different parts of our business to be more strategic. But I think on the creative side, what has been really fun to see as of late is, thinking differently about hospitality. Sometimes the idea that you have, and I think we all maybe get, are witness to it sometimes, of like, what if we did this with this room? What would that look like? I think that to take that now to actually in some cases, especially with Chat GPT and all these different things, here's what the space could look like if you did this, right? And sometimes you just can't even articulate that in a conversation. It's just one of those things where, well, now we have the capability to say, oh, is this what you mean? Great example of that. We actually had an event about, I think it was a week and a half ago, and this is kind of going on the food servicing side. The client had a very detailed cake that they wanted to be made, right? They were celebrating 130 years of being in business, and they were like, we want this out of this world cake. We don't know, we don't care what it takes to get it done and look like this, but here's what we have, right? And we were trying forever to figure out, like, where did they find this cake? We are doing Google searches, stuff like that. Well, they just went through Chat GPT and they came up with this grand thing, and it was just like, I mean, it was very immaculate, right? But our culinary team, we have a true dedicated pastry chef and culinary team that's here, and they recreated exactly to the scale of what they had. But that would have not been a thought to our team if we didn't even have the technology to say, hey, this is what it's supposed to be, it's supposed to look like. And so I think, the hospitality is always going to be there, no matter the evolution of tech is going to continue on, and I'm excited about that. But I do think what is always going to be the key piece in delivering on that is, the hospitality, the people side, to make sure that we're understanding exactly what that person wants. What does Steve need? What does he want? What does he like? And how do we deliver that with a smile on our face to make sure that they keep coming back?
Yeah, absolutely. Technology, yeah, is clearly a driver for so many things, but I totally agree with you that at the end of the day, we're in the service industry, and we've got to match whatever the technology does with that best in class service. And it sounds like
Yep.
that's exactly what you guys are doing there at AT&T Stadium and the Star. Look, it's been a real pleasure to
Yeah.
talk with you, Sean, and hear from one of the most iconic venues in the sporting world. So just incredible that you were able to share those insights with us. I really appreciated them, as I'm sure all the listeners did as well. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I appreciate it, and thank you again for having me on.